Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into Key Time Sports. There was a lot to talk about this past weekend in college football. It's week 7. We were at the halfway point of college football, and there are 4 games that I want to get into that can really determine the outcome of the college football playoff. And one of these couple of these games really shook up the rankings. The first game I want to talk about is the Texas Longhorns and Oklahoma Sooners. Now, this game, it really wasn't a game. I mean, first quarter, Oklahoma, they basically, for the first 10 or 11 minutes of the game, they basically dominated this game. And then you get to the second quarter, and that's where it was basically an avalanche from then on for the Texas Longhorns. Now, Quinn Ewers, he came back, first game back from injury, 20 or 29, 199 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Michael Hawkins Jr., Brett Venables, I don't know what you need to do. Maybe you need to switch him in. Maybe you need to take him out and switch the other quarterback back in, or maybe have a 2 quarterback system throughout the rest of the season, because just basing it off of one guy and keeping one guy in the game, it ain't going to help you. The last 3 games total, the Oklahoma Sooners have averaged a total of 19 points per game. Saturday, they only had 3, and that came within the first 5 minutes of the game. So when you look at this, their offense, Oklahoma's offense, was very inept. Texas, they had over 400 yards, and Oklahoma only had 237 yards. But on the first drive, and most of that came on the first drive. On the first drive, they had 89 yards. And then for the rest of the game, it was just pedestrian. It was just a pedestrian offense. And they only had 89 rushing yards in the game. And also, third down efficiency, Texas was 5 of 13, and Oklahoma was 4 of 15. Now, Quinn Ewers in the first quarter, he was a bit rusty. I got to give him credit. I got to say that, because he missed 4 or 5 throws in the first quarter that really could have been first downs. But he got the cobwebs out in the first quarter, second quarter, 3 touchdowns on 3 consecutive drives. Then coming out of halftime, he led a drive down for a field goal. And then in the fourth quarter, he led 2 scoring drives, a touchdown, and a field goal. So, is Texas the top team in the country? From the way it's looking, yes. By their play, yes. They belong at the top of the board. They are the number 1 team in the country for a reason. Oklahoma, you have a whole lot of stuff to get in order. Brett Venables, as far as the defense and the offense, because I'm not gonna put blame on one side, because it's the offense and the defense. The defense is lackluster. The offense is lackluster. You've only averaged 19 points. Well, excuse me. You've only scored a total of 19 points throughout your last 3 games, and averaged a total of 16 points throughout the last 3 games. So, Oklahoma, you had a tough entrance coming into the SEC. Those 4 games that y'all won, it was against suspect competition. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it, because y'all, Texas, showed everybody in America that Oklahoma does not belong on the field with us. And that is what Saturday showed all of us. Oklahoma does not belong on the field with teams like Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, or Notre Dame. Now those are teams. Now, yeah, Notre Dame is better than Oklahoma right now, even though they've had a couple of losses here and there, and a couple of times where their offense has looked lackluster. But Oklahoma, their season is done, because just like I said, when it comes to the college football playoff, they are not going to let a 3 or 4 loss team in the college football playoff. So, in Oklahoma, the schedule for them for the rest of the season, they're gonna lose at least 2 more games. So they might have enough wins for a bowl game. Who knows? But it is not looking good for the Oklahoma Sooners. Texas, you've done your job. Now it is a big game. Now Texas Longhorns, they have a big game versus the almighty Georgia Bulldogs this coming Saturday. Now that is a game that I have been waiting for ever since the schedule came out. And later on in the week, I will give you my prediction for that, but I am going to say that for another show. The next game I want to talk about is Ohio State and Oregon. Now, most of the country, they said that Ohio State was going to win this. But I said, no, I'm going to go against the grain and pick the Oregon Ducks, because the previous 2 times Dan Lannon has coached against a top 5 team, he's lost. And then there's that phrase that I always like to use: third time is a charm. And the third time was a charm for the Oregon Ducks. Oregon Ducks, they started off slow in the first quarter. First drive of the game, Ohio State goes down, scores. Then Oregon, their offense was pedestrian for the first three possessions. They were pedestrian. And then in the second quarter, they started to get a little momentum. Third quarter, they didn't score any points. And then the fourth quarter, they scored basically the game-winning touchdown. So it was quite a few instances in the game where Oregon went for it on fourth down. If they did not get the fourth down completion, we would obviously be talking about a different game. And we would be talking about a different game. So as of right now, when you look at both teams' third down efficiency, Ohio State 4 of 12, Oregon 6 of 14. That was basically, both of these teams have good defenses. Now, what I have to say about the Ohio State Buckeyes, those first 4-5 games, they played against suspect competition. And with the new alignment of college football this year, you are going to have teams like Ohio State lose a game here or two. Because before the college football alignment for this season came into play, Ohio State, they wouldn't lose a game that Ohio State wouldn't lose a game until Thanksgiving to Michigan, or right after Thanksgiving, Christmas or New Year's. So this is some unfamiliar territory that Ohio State has been in. They haven't lost a game this early in the season since Urban Meyer's first year, when they lost. I forgot who they lost to, but Urban Meyer's first year when he was at Ohio State, they lost their first game this early in the season. So when you look at this game for Ohio State, the defense was the defense was suspect. Just like I said, those first 5 games they played against inferior competition. Against Oregon, they had trouble getting off the field on third down, which nobody is surprised by that. Oregon has a top-notch offense, and Ohio State has a top-notch defense. So a good offense can wear out a good defense, just like Oregon did to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, the last drive of the game, that's where a lot of people gave Ohio State flack for. Now, I looked at the entirety of this game, and I was just the last drive for Ohio State. I'm a bit perplexed and confused about what happened on that last play. Now, last play of the game, everybody knows what happened last play of the game. Last play of the game, you have 6 seconds. You have 6 seconds to get, I'm going to say, they were on the 45-yard line, so they could have. So what Ohio State should have did was have a 8-yard pass play and then try a, let's say, 45, 8 yards. You at the 37-yard line. So potentially they could have tried a 53-yard field goal. But one thing, everything that would have went on in that play, it would have had to be perfect. Now, obviously, it didn't turn out that way. 6 seconds left. I guess Will Howard, he had a guy that was open, but he took off and basically ran the clock out, and Ohio State didn't have a chance for a potential game-winning field goal. But where Ohio State messed up early in the fourth quarter, they called their second timeout. And I was saying to myself, they might need that timeout later on in the game, and they did need that timeout. Because if they had 2 timeouts with under 50 seconds left, you would have had a little bit more wiggle room to get down the field and get in field goal range for the game-winning field goal. But obviously, Ryan Day took a timeout in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left, his second timeout, and I was saying, no, you shouldn't have. And that is what ultimately lost the game. And plus, what really lost the game for Ohio State is they wasn't able to stop Oregon in the second quarter. Ohio State wasn't able to stop Oregon. And then in the fourth quarter, they wasn't able to stop Oregon. Most of Oregon's points came in the second quarter and the fourth quarter. And plus, Ohio State allowed almost 500 yards. Almost damn near 500 yards. 496 to Ohio State's 467. So this was an offensive game right here. I knew that this game was going to be close. I said the Ducks was going to come out victorious, and the Ducks did. Now, Ohio State, you're still a good team, but Ohio State, you can't lose any other games. And do I think Ohio State is going to lose 2 more games this season? No, I don't think so. Because when you look at their schedule, yes, they have Penn State, but do we really know who Penn State is? Still early in the season. We are at the halfway point of the season. So there is still a lot of teams to figure out. Oregon, still haven't figured them out yet. They just 6-0 right now. Still, there are a lot of teams to figure out. And with all of that, after all of that, that is what I have for the Ohio State-Oregon game. The next game I want to talk about is the LSU Tigers and Ole Miss Rebels. Now, this game right here, I also looked at this game. I saw where both teams in the first quarter couldn't score. Then you had like an offensive avalanche between both teams in the second quarter. Garrett Nussmeier didn't really have didn't really have a decent game. He was 22 of 51, 337 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Jackson Dart, 24 of 42, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. As far as the running game was lackluster for the LSU Tigers. That's why Garrett Nussmeier was throwing it 85% of the time. For the Ole Miss Rebels, they had over 100 yards rushing. To be exact, 181. Now, for the Ole Miss Rebels, they've lost 2 of their last 3 games. One to Kentucky, and also this one to LSU. Ole Miss, are they going to be able to make it to the playoff? Well, if anybody was watching the press conference, Jackson Dart said that they would have to win out. And that's exactly what they are going to have to do. They are going to have to win out in order to get to the college football playoff. Because just like I keep reiterating to all of America, the likelihood of the college football playoff committee putting a 3 or 4 loss team in the top 5 of the college football playoff, or in the college football playoff entirely, it is going to be a low percentage. So you could have 1 loss, you could have 2 losses, but after that, college football playoff committee, they not gonna put anybody with 3 to 4 losses in there. So this game right here, I mean, for Ole Miss, going into Saturday night in Death Valley is already a tall task, going into a hostile environment. But when you look at it, Ole Miss was more efficient on 3rd down than LSU was, and LSU won this game when Ole Miss should have won this game. 3rd down efficiency, Ole Miss was 11 of 22. LSU on 3rd down was 6 of 16. Obviously, they had the same amount of yards. Ole Miss had 464 yards. LSU had 421 yards. Interception, turnovers. That's what really won this game. LSU had more turnovers than Ole Miss as far as on the defensive side of the ball. Now, because Jackson Dart threw an interception, Ole Miss had a fumble. LSU recovered the fumble and went down and scored and won the game. Now, this game went into overtime. But Ole Miss had a chance to win this game. Ole Miss had a chance to win this game in regulation. I mean, even though you have 40 seconds left, I've seen Ole Miss throughout the season score a touchdown just like that, or get a big play just like that. So for me not to see Ole Miss at least roll the dice and go down the field for one big play so that you can line up and have a game-winning field goal in regulation was astounding to me. I don't know if Lane Kiffin had in his mind, well, if we do throw it, there's a possibility that this ball could get intercepted and LSU could wind up winning the game in regulation. So I believe that is why he played for overtime. But Ole Miss, all in all, Ole Miss coulda and shoulda won this game. But like I always say, coulda and shoulda does not resonate into wins on the scoreboard. Does not resonate to touchdowns on the scoreboard. So, all in all, this was a good game. This was a very close game, like I predicted. And I predicted this game to be an offensive shootout. It wasn't really that, but it was still an entertaining game, just like every game between Ole Miss and LSU has always been through the last 6 years. Now, all in all, it was a good game. The next game I want to talk about is, I got to do this, South Carolina and Alabama. Alabama dodged the bullet. Is Alabama just an average team now? I mean, just because the defense did not look great against Vanderbilt, and it certainly did not look great versus South Carolina. I mean, first quarter, 7-0, everything was going good. Second quarter, they had the lead at halftime. But in that second quarter, South Carolina started to gain momentum. And then when South Carolina came out in the third quarter, they had the lead. I'm looking at this game, I'm like, is Alabama really going to lose back-to-back games for the first time since 2007? That's right. It has been 17 years since Alabama has lost back-to-back games in any part of the season. So I was looking at this game, I'm like, Alabama can't lose to South Carolina. And then in the fourth quarter, I started looking. Seemed like South Carolina was about to take control of this game, firm control of this game. And then South Carolina running back fumbled the ball. And then when he fumbled the ball, I was saying this is the break that Alabama needs to get the lead and keep the lead. And that's exactly what they did. Now, Jalen Miro, he played average in this game. He was 16 of 23, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And those were 2 ill-advised throws with those interceptions with South Carolina Gamecocks quarterback Lenore Sellers, 23 of 31, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And when it comes to the running backs for Alabama and South Carolina, they both had the same amount of yards. But basically, what I was looking at for this game was strictly the defense. The defense for Alabama, they wasn't able to neutralize South Carolina like they need to. And when you look at the third down efficiency for the South Carolina Gamecocks, 7 of 15, not good for an Alabama-led defense. Third down efficiency on offense for Alabama, 5 of 11, not good for Alabama offense. Now, when you look at this game in its entirety, you see a team in South Carolina that really didn't have any business playing Alabama this close in South Carolina. And as for Alabama, you still have some glaring problems on defense and offense. Maybe Alabama needs to slow down the game for Jalen Miro, because Jalen Miro at times, when he is in the pocket, it seems like he gets antsy, don't know what to do, whether to run or throw. And that's why he took sacks during the South Carolina game. There was at least 3 plays where I was saying, I'm like, run the ball, Jalen Miro. Get out of there, Jalen Miro. And he took sacks on all 3 of those plays. And it seemed like that they were good plays. Now, there was one play late in the fourth quarter where the tight end was wide open. He could have threw it to the tight end. Jalen Miro could have threw it to his tight end. They could have scored a touchdown, and Alabama could have been up by 12 or 14 points. But he didn't. And as far as that play, if Alabama scores, we are obviously talking about a different type of outcome where Alabama wins by 12 points instead of just 2. So, Alabama, what I can say about Alabama, this is a new defense they have. They have a bunch of freshmen on defense and offense. This is the first time new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new head coach in Kalen DeBoer. They're going to be, like I always said, first year, there's going to be some growing pains. Second year, we have to see some improvement. Third year, okay, you should be ready to make a little noise. Fourth year, you should be able to, as far as a team, be ranked in college football consistently. And that by that fifth year, you should be able to win a championship. Now, Kalen DeBoer, he has 3 of those top 5 things that I have listed. He already has 3 of them. Ever since he's been at Alabama, he's been ranked consistently. He has a quarterback, a dynamic quarterback that can take off and run like he needs to. And plus, there's always room for improvement between the first half of the season and the second half of the season. So, Alabama has experienced growing pains throughout the last 2.5 weeks. They've been consistently ranked, and they have a bunch of young guys that can improve upon their offensive style and defensive style of play. And with that, those are my reactions to week 7 of the college football season in 2024. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Click the notification bell to get notified of all of my reaction videos, shows, and other content. And also follow Key City Sports on TikTok. And remember one last thing, the key is always on time.